All right, all right, all right, all right. Let's get started. I'm so glad that you guys could join me today for our introductory session on our Tier 2 AI. This feature is very easily one of the coolest features that we've built. And I think we we say that about all the features that we build. We're so proud to be able to offer some of these really crazy harebrained ideas that no one else has, because we know that it's going to be helpful to you. We know that we've seen it helpful to our end users, to our technicians, and we're just really excited to see how it's helpful to you guys as you build out the features around the Tier 2 AI. Today, what we're going to do is we're going to just take a really high look at what this AI is. We're going to go through the basic operations of it. We've got a tester where you can put in certain phrases and check against them, and you can see how it works. So we're going to go through a couple examples there. And then we're going to see it in action. I'm going to fire off a ticket with our installation of Tier 2 tickets, and we'll be able to see some of the functionality of our Tier 2 AI in action. And then we'll go through some keys on how to implement it. If you are taking this course with me today, you'll be able to have the code. I'll drop it in the chat. And if we'll have this up on YouTube later, I guess I'll maybe have a link to it there as well. But it's pretty straightforward, and it's really, really fascinating, and we hope that you guys would agree. So without further ado, let's get started. So here's our interactive demonstration of our Tier 2 AI, and there's 7 examples here, and these are all editable. You can edit them within this frame here, but basically what we've got, these first 4 examples are kind of tech-based examples. 5, 6, and 7 kind of go into other features that you can do with the AI. You don't have to just categorize statements. You can also say, test hypotheses against certain phrases. So like, is it grass? You can say, what color do we think it's going to be? Most likely, if it's grass, it's going to be green. So that's essentially what we're doing. It's going to give you the other percentages of how close the other items kind of match to that. So let's look at example 1. And what we've got here is our input text, which would be in our case of using it with Tier 2 tickets, which you can access this public API for any of your other side projects. So if there's anything that you are wanting to work on, you can have 100 programmatic requests a day. And if you've got any questions about that, you can obviously ask us. We'd be happy to see it out in the wild. But okay, so here's the message that the user would be putting into Tier 2 tickets. Hey, we fired one of our nurses and we need you to disable their account, please. You can see we've got a list of markers here. There's 20 of them in this list, and that's actually the limit of items you can have per list. You can have multiple lists. We'll get into this when we talk about implementation, but you've got 20 different markers that we're going to test against. And so in the same way that we just tested the colors of grass, we're going to test what does this sentence most likely line up with. So let's hit submit. Employee termination. You can see the other rankings here. In the same way, let's look at our next example. New person is starting at the office today. We need to get them a laptop ASAP. Most likely that's a new hire, but maybe also it's a computer purchase. And so with each of these things, like, it's great to be able to categorize it, but with our Tier 2 assists and our dispatcher rules, you can now give, in this case, if you have a new hire, you can provide one of our Tier 2 forms where after they've submitted the ticket and it says, oh, this person, they are talking about a new hire, you can provide them with one of our Tier 2 forms where you can either with Google or Cognito Forms provide your list of requirements for whenever you onboard a new person. What's their name, when's their start date, what type of resources do they need, and then all that information, once you submit it, gets pushed into the ticket that you've just received in your ticketing system. So really great way to kind of close the loop there, and give the users some actions that kind of help you get all the information you need to get started. So we've got a couple good examples there. And again, you can go through and you can try these out yourself. You can change the markers if those are things that you don't think you'd really be using. But so that's the first part of it. It's kind of those actionable things based on the category or the issue or the type of ticket. You can even triage tickets based on this. So you could say, if someone says Microsoft Office license purchase, then put this in my Microsoft 365 queue in my, or my type of, or subtype of ticket in my PSA. So tons of things you can do that we'll go through in our example. But I also want to hit quickly on identifying sentiment, because this is a huge thing that, you know, there's whole products that are based on this concept of identifying human sentiment and kind of triggering follow-ups, or, you know, if someone's really upset, being able to follow up with that. And so I want to look at our example number 7 here. And as you can see, just then the serial killer turned the corner and raised his knife. There was nowhere left to turn or run. What are those markers? Scary, funny, neutral, exciting, boring, sad. What do we think this is going to most likely line up with? Probably scary. Yes, indeed. 99% most likely that it's scary. Hopefully your MSP or your help desk isn't having to deal with serial killers and knives on a regular basis. So let's kind of back this out and maybe do like a real world example. And you can see me editing this here. So, you know, what if a user is frustrated? What if they're angry? What if they're pleased? Maybe these are a few things that you might find interesting to kind of track. I'll leave the other ones in here because who knows, maybe they're scary. So what would be a common thing that you might receive? Hey, Bobby promised this update 2 weeks ago. Why isn't it done yet? So let's see what this ticket sentiment comes out to. Ooh, frustrated, maybe a tinge of anger. So that's pretty good, right? Like if a client is saying this to you, which they shouldn't be saying this to you, if you have your technicians, and I know a lot of you guys have great technicians who are on the ball, they are commenting, they're connecting with the end users consistently, giving them updates on stuff. But you know, every once in a while we'll get one of these things. And so you can actually identify if someone's frustrated or angry, or you know what, maybe another one could be urgent. So you know what, hey, the CEO needs this thing done. So you can also identify if, you know, if something's pretty important based on the context in the sentiment that is latent in the human phrasing here of English. So it's really, really crazy and exciting. And the implications there are, if you are using our impact urgency priority matrix with your dispatcher rules currently, you could increase the urgency based on if someone comes in as frustrated or angry, or both. You could increase it 2 points. If something comes in as pleased, you know, like, thank you for getting this thing done. I really loved it. Maybe that's something that you want to assign to a manager or something that says, you know, like, hey, this person's really happy. Maybe you want to follow up with them for a testimonial, or maybe that's something you want to trigger a customer satisfaction report on. Or, you know, a form to give you if you're using a CSAT or something. So lots of things that you can do here. And this is, you know, the sky's the limit. We're just coming up with examples kind of on the fly here. But that's kind of the nuts and bolts, the kind of the guts of the Tier 2 AI is you've got this really powerful hypothesis checker that's going to be able to say, okay, you've got this phrase, what does that most likely line up with, whether it's sentiment or category, or you know, identifying what action needs to be taken. So pretty cool, pretty cool. Any questions on that? No? All right, so let's see this in action. I am remoted into a computer right now. And we are going to submit our help ticket. And if you haven't been updated to at least version 1.1.12, we have a pin to taskbar feature now, and our own MSP has seen adoption increase by nearly twice. Most tickets are coming in through Tier 2 tickets now, with the addition of obviously that physical button, but also this pin to taskbar icon. It really encourages people to get help. straight away. So let's go in and submit a ticket. And I'm going to show you two things here. I'm going to show you specifically the AI in work, but I'm also going to show you that we now have the ability to fire off our Tier 2 assists either before or after the ticket is submitted. So we're going to go through this process the same way that we always do. And I've got a couple different ways that you can fire a ticket before, or I have a couple different rules that you can use to fire a ticket off before. I'm sorry, getting ahead of myself. I have a couple different rules where you can fire off an assist action instead of submitting a ticket. So you've got kind of a buffer. If someone asks, they would like an update of a ticket status, maybe you want to send them to your ticketing portal. Or in this case, maybe they have a billing question. So why is my invoice higher this month than last month? And I'm also going to select this schedule an on-site appointment so you can see the actions that occur after the ticket has been submitted. But what's going to happen now, we're going to go to review our submission, and it's going to actually go through and check that rule. And it says, oh, looks like you had a billing question. Would you like to go to your billing portal? And I've got just a static URL link here to Connect Booster. So it's just going to pull up Connect Booster here. But so you could go ahead and divert traffic to any specific portals that you have, ticketing portal, Connect Booster. I was talking to a client earlier, our partner earlier, and if someone mentions remote access, they can send them to the remote access tool link, all within their this ticketing process. And if that's not what they wanted to do, if that they actually want to talk to someone or whatever, you can cancel out of it and go and submit the ticket in its completion. So the ticket's been submitted. This is one of our newest features. We've got toast notifications, automatic toast notifications on ticket status change. And here's our Tier 2 assist action that got fired off after the ticket was submitted. So you can go and schedule an appointment. This is actually linked through TimeZest if you're a ConnectWise or I believe Autotask user. So cool, our ticket's been submitted. And what we're going to do is I'm going to show you our backend here of what rules we're firing there and kind of some other things that you can do. So I'm going to go to our automations, our Tier 2 assists. And so let's look at our code editor specifically. And, if you want to use our visual editor, it's great. You can drag and drop things. I personally have been doing quite a bit of these, and I like to just kind of use the straight Python. So I don't know how much of this you can see. Let's make it a little bit bigger. So this is all that I have firing off here. We've got our AI here with a list of categories. So that's the list of categories that you saw at the beginning of our AI, of our conversation here. So new hire, slow computer, billing question, new device or service, Microsoft Assistance, or forgot password. Those are the 6 categories, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, that I'm testing against. So you don't have to have as many, you don't have to have 1 million or 20 or several lists of 20. You can just do the things that are low hanging fruit for you, the things that if it could go ahead and provide users with an action would help, reduce calls or, reduce the load on your technicians. Let's look at these rules. So we've got if is before ticket submitted. So before the ticket submitted, if they have a billing question, send them to the billing portal. So that's the rule that we just saw. And if you remember the phrase that I put in there, it was something like, why is my invoice higher this month than last month? So you can see you don't have to say specifically you're not matching to a thesaurus or anything. You're talking to not quite sentient, but a machine learning neural net that's able to identify and kind of cut through any of your any of your sentences that you kind of put together. So billing question, new device or service, we've got this linked to a Google form. If someone says they have a slow computer, we go ahead and offer them the action to reboot the computer. And then after the ticket's submitted, if they mentioned wanting a new device, we've got, apparently I've done that twice, product estimate, new hire, we've got a form for them to fill out for the new hire. You could launch a chat tool, schedule in selections, then launch a scheduling tool. And if you forgot password and then the results matches, then you can also send them to a password reset link. So that's all that this is calling for, and that's the way that you implement the AI there. And I've got some more kind of advanced examples that I'll show you kind of as we talk about the best cases for how to implement this. But so that's what it looks like on the assists side. The dispatcher rules side are going to be really customized to you, right? You're probably, there's certain actions that you'll want to give people in general, like those ones, but there's a lot of other things with dispatcher rules that might be a little bit more personal because it's with the inner workings of your systems. So right now, the main examples that I have, or the main example that I have is the sentiment factor that I was just talking about. So this impact urgency priority matrix that we have, we start off with initiating just a general value that's going to match up with our actual priorities in our PSA. And then we'll modify these as certain stipulations are implied. So in the selections process of those radio buttons, if they select certain ones, it can impact the impact or urgency. And then here, with our categories up here, and you can see that the syntax, not the syntax, but the nomenclature has changed. So you can name these whatever you want. So I've got a list of feelings, and then I've got my analyzed sentiment based on the message. And so if the user says that they're frustrated, I can increase the urgency. If a user says they're angry, I can then increase their urgency again. And if they said something urgent, like, that we showed you, like this, what if the CEO said that something needed to be done? Well, you can then increase the urgency again, or, if you've already surpassed 0, you just make it, set it to 0. So that's what this is saying. And then from there, we have 5 priorities here in this little array, and 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. And so the most you can have is 4, the least you can have is 0. And so when you add up those, you can identify what the priority is, or you can set the priority based on this little matrix here. So that's what that's basically saying. Then I have another rule that says if the priority is set to very high, then append the phrase emergency in front of the subject line so that I can see that when it comes in, and it just kind of makes those tickets stand out. So those are the examples that I have in the dispatcher rules, just pretty straightforward. And it's just a little bit of code here. And I'm happy to share that with you specifically if you are interested in getting this set up for yourself. So any questions here? Quite a lot. Great. Okay, so what we're going to do now is I'm going to go through how you would implement these, how you would maybe test a little bit some of the basic rules, and most of this is documented in our documentation. That's under docs.tier2tickets.com. Under the left-hand side here, you can go down to our beta Tier2AI, and it's going to give you kind of some of the high points on how to use the AI itself. But I promise it's not too complicated. Well, maybe it's as complicated as you want it to be. So let's talk through kind of these examples here on this page, and then I'll go through a complicated example that I've set up for a partner even today. So here are the categories and results. Again, you set the categories with as many categories as you want to check for. These categories, you're not, like I mentioned a couple minutes ago, you're not talking to a thesaurus. You're not you don't need to list, remote access and VPN and, whatever. But you do need to give a phrase that it can match to. So for example, for another example, if you want to match to, if printer, if you want to match to like printer as a type of or a subtype of a problem that your users may be having, you can't just say printer here. You actually need to say printer issue or printer problem. The AI doesn't know what to do with just a word. It needs another point, another focal point to kind of connect those two dots and to identify those categories. So that's the first thing I just want to point out. You want some phrases in these categories, not just single words. You're talking to a neural net, a machine learning neural net that knows multiple languages, frankly. So we've tested it with French and German and Spanish. Be interested in, if you guys try any other languages, what you can see it kind of shake out. So like I said, list of categories with phrases, no more than 20 items in each array, and you can have as many as you want. So if you wanted to have a list of categories with results, and then if you wanted to have a list of feelings or sentiments with those feelings or sentiments as the results, if you wanted to have if you want to have just multiple lists, you can have all of those. There's just a decrease in performance if you do more than 20 at a time in an array. So anyway, then going through this, there's essentially 3 different match methods that you can do. There's best match, which will only return you one thing. So if the best match equals the phrase that you're looking for, then link that, and it is going to be based on the value. It's I think it's 97% confidence. So and then that's so if there's 4 different things and they're all above 80, it's going to return you the best one, the one that's the highest there. And then the same thing with matches, they're going to return if anything that scores greater than a 94. So instead of just having one, you may have a couple. So you could have a couple different actions that fire off at the same time. And then you can also set individual scores. So if you want something that has a very, very narrow confidence interval, so if you want something with like a 99%, you want someone to say exactly the thing that you need them to say, then you can change the individual scoring. So there's different syntaxes, is that right? Yeah, syntaxes for how you would call each of these items. So phrases, not words, no more than 20 in each array. And then you've got these different best matches, matches and scores that you can call things against. Okay, cool. So let's talk about some examples of what our AI can look like when it's interacting with our Tier 2 assist actions and also our dispatcher rules. And these automations, you can still set these up where it only calls to a specific word or phrase. You don't have to tie it into the AI, but that just gives you a little bit more flexibility if you're trying to suss out what a user's message is. So we're going to look at 2 different examples, and 2 different examples from 2 different kind of approaches. And they're going to have some similarities, but we'll just kind of give them to you to kind of whet your appetite for what you can be doing with this. So before we get into that, I do want to do a quick brief walkover of what the assists are, the Tier 2 assists are versus the dispatcher rules. And essentially the big breakup there is that the dispatcher rules impact the ticket itself as it is submitted to your PSA. The Tier 2 assist actions are user-facing actions that give the user something to do in the interim while they're waiting for the ticket to be submitted or waiting for the ticket to be resolved. So the dispatcher rules, they don't show anything to the end user. They just impact the ticket itself. And then the Tier 2 assist actions in general give the user actions, and those can be done before the ticket is submitted. As you can see here in our rules, you can have a before ticket submit or an after ticket is submitted action. So if you want to kind of interrupt the ticket submission process for certain things like ticket status updates or billing questions, you can do that. So let's look at this overview for this assist example, and we've got 4 different main things that we're going to be doing here. We're going to send users to a portal based on certain words or phrases. We're going to schedule an appointment with Calendly if they've checked the checkbox that says schedule in it. They are going to give them a form based on a result. And then we're also going to give them a random survey 25% of the time. So like what we're going to do in all of these examples, we're going to initiate, since we're using the AI, we're going to initiate the AI, and we're going to create a list of categories to run our neural net through, or run through our neural net. So in this case, we've only got 5 different categories because we don't have many actions that we want to do here. This is just some low-hanging fruit. We've got these 5 categories, and our variable here result is going to be the result of our AI categorize function, where we're going to categorize the message according to these categories. And so here's what that looks like in practice. Here's our Python here. If is before ticket submitted. If they mention wanting a status update, or if they want to know where their new laptop is, we send them to a ticket portal. If they've got a billing question, which in our example we'd shown earlier, it said, why is my invoice higher this month than last month? The AI knows that that is a billing question, and it's able to redirect them to a billing portal like Connect Booster. And then we've got if they mention wanting a new device or service, we can send them to a product estimate form. Our tier 2 forms allow you to integrate with Google Forms or Cognito Forms. And when the user fills out that form process, they can then submit that form, and that information will be appended as a private note to that ticket that was associated in this process. And you can use Google Forms, again, as an aside, you can use Google Forms or Cognito Forms. You can use these tier 2 forms outside of the tier 2 assist process. If you want to just send someone a form, the fallback is when they fill that form out, if there's not a ticket already associated with it, it'll create a ticket in your PSA for that form. So a nice little feature there. And then we've got 2 actions after the ticket submission process. So if they mention schedule and selection, so this is not calling to the AI, which these are just results matches, if there's just a match in there. This is just saying if schedules and selections, which we know it's going to be specifically schedule because that's in our GUI, we've set up the checkboxes and radio buttons to say what we want them to say. So if that, then give them this phrase that says, hey, schedule a time with a technician. And then we can make this this list as long as we would like for it to be. This actually should be a ticket number. Is that capitalized? I don't recall. But so you've got a few options here for however you want to customize that URL. If you need it to be, yeah, it's capitalized. If you need it to just be the ticket number and not the name and email, or if you want it to just be the email, just depending on how you have things kind of set up, you can create that in however that needs to look. And then our random survey, we could say if it's 25% of the time, then give them the survey to see how they're liking this ticket submission process. So AIs for the tier 2 assist actions, pretty straightforward. Again, just giving the end user some actions to, kind of smooth over the process, to gather more information while they're waiting, and to just kind of give them kind of that hands-on dynamic access to what they need to be doing next. There's some people who are go-getters and they want to be power users and they want to be helpful. This will be good for them. And there's other people who really, they don't know what's going on, and this kind of helps suss out what they need, and it gives you more information to get started as well. So let's look at the dispatcher rules. And again, these dispatcher rules are going to be things that impact the ticket as it's being submitted into your PSA. Looking at our summary up here, we wanted to assign types and subtypes based on what the user mentions in their message. So we're going to run each of these things, groupings through our AI. We want to elevate the urgency of a ticket or de-escalate the urgency of a ticket based on if they mention something is slow, we want it to be less important. If they mention something is down or critically impacting them, we want to make it more important. And then if we want something to be super important because it is impacting VIP clients, we're going to set that to a critical level ticket. So some really cool things that we have going on there. So let's talk a little bit about the logic of the process here. So the first thing that we've got is we are initiating our AI. We have two separate groups here. I mentioned the priorities there. So if something's slow, we want it to be prioritized as one way. If something is cannot access or the server down, so those are higher priorities, we want to be able to kind of call to that as well. And then we've got our issues. So we've got, what, 10 different things here. And we're going to call to each of those items. And I want you to notice, just as you're looking at this, that these items are not just one word. It's really tempting to say, I just want to say I have a printer problem. The problem is with printer. We're not matching to a thesaurus here. Yet again, we are matching to a neural net, and you don't want to just give it a point because it doesn't know what to do with a point. You need to be able to provide it another point for its trend line, if I may say so. So we've got that kind of point-to-point connection of printer problem or printer issue, depending on how you want to phrase that. You don't have to say remote access issues and VPN issues. You can just say remote access issues, and it's going to be able to kind of suss that out. I did add exchange issue in addition to email issue, just because I felt more comfortable with that. I just felt like it was a better idea, just because sometimes with specific software names, it's a little bit funky. So that's why that's there. Okay. And then I mentioned that they want to check for certain softwares and that there's certain critical softwares. We just have some lists here, and we'll talk about how we iterate through those lists and why shortly. Okay, so first things first, if for a software item in software list, that's our software list, if there is a software item in the message, and that actually needs to be lower, then create the issue as computer and the sub-issue as application. So we're going through and we're setting types based on the user's message. Same thing here. We're actually doing these based on, so in the assist, we're doing things just based on matches. Here, we want to kind of tighten down the match confidence level. We want to make it tighter because we want to, we want to save you time. We don't want you to have to go through and, just because it was really close to new device or service, but it was really a printer problem, we don't want to set those up so that, you're having to change a bunch of them. So setting up a higher confidence interval is going to be very good. And if we saw at the beginning that a lot of these confidence intervals are 98, 99%. So 97 is actually pretty low for what we know that we can confidently capture. So again, just setting issues and sub-issues based on all of these items. Again, these are based on scores. You could also do best match, which is 94% or higher, and it only takes the top one. But in this case, as you can see with the else if, it's going to take the first one and then it's going to abort after that first one. All right, slow versus critical priority adjustments. So our slow versus critical priority adjustments, we've got, we're initiating with an impact of 2 and an urgency of 2. So if the users select no radio buttons, and again, this is assuming that you are using radio buttons in tier 2 tickets as that priority, the impact urgency priority matrix. So this will impact only me. A few people are affected. This is affecting the entire office. This is a plan change. All job functions are impacted, or some job functions are impacted, or the 2 sets of 3. So if you're using that, this is a great way to get started with that process. So you've got, we're starting with a value of 4 for our combined result here. And so if you look at I'm jumping down to the bottom here, our priority is going to be our list of priority names, this is coming straight from someone's auto task instance. And so these are their priority names. You can see there's 5 there, but again, this is an array. So it starts with 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So if the user selects none of these, it'll be next time, it'll be the least important item. But if they selected, this is affecting the entire office and all job functions are impacted, then it would elevate to critical because it would be 0. So that's how that essentially works. And the rest of this is just some tomfoolery around calling our AI. So if our urgency in matches is computer slow, then we're gonna increase the urgency because we'll make it less important, right? So That'll be good. It'll help us kind of triage that a little bit better. And then if our urgencies are that we can't access something and the server's down, we're going to make it more urgent. And then also to add another layer to that, we've got that list, that critical list of things. So if the urgency is in the matches and there's a critical item in the message, then, and then the same thing with a critical item and server down in urgency, then let's increase the impact. Let's increase that impact. And also set the computer type and computer application. That was just something I had to add for the rules up here. So that allows us to, again, just kind of move the needle a little bit depending on how we want that ticket to come in, based solely on the user's message. So that's that example here. A little complicated, not too bad. I have this whole thing, that priority adjustment matrix available. That's what I'll drop in our chat. But just wanted to kind of show you it in action. Any questions about this setup? Okay, let's look at our next one, our next example. Again, you're going to see some similarities here. But this is going to be a little bit more complicated because there's just a little bit more stuff going on, but I just want to kind of show you what you can do. So looking at our assists first, we wanted to give a tier 2 form for 12 or 13 different cognitive forms based on 13 different requests. So we're going to have all of those requests listed out here. We also wanted to send them off to a billing portal, send them off to a remote access portal, or send them off to a ticket status or the ticket portal. So billing portal, remote access portal, ticket status portal. So again, we're initiating our categories and we've got our results versus categories. If before ticket submit, we've got the ticketing portal items, the billing portal item, and the remote access item. So those things will get dropped down for them as soon as they go to submit the ticket. And then after they've submitted the ticket, if they've requested a certain item, we can say, it sounds like you are requesting X, Y, or Z. Click go to fill out the respective form. And then we've got a random message, I guess, here at the bottom as well to send them off to a survey link. But so that's, I mean, essentially the same thing that we're doing, just a little, as we did in the last example, just a little bit more separated out, pulled apart, because we've got these different forms. We're just looking in our results as matches because we want to be able to provide them a couple different options depending on what they're asking for. Let's look at our dispatcher rules for this. So our dispatcher rules, in this case, we wanted to separate things out a little bit differently. Instead of having things separated out as just a general issue type, or I guess the other wording for it was an auto task. So it was issues and sub-issues. We wanted to be able to look in ConnectWise and do types and subtypes. And with this, they had, this partner had 2 types, a repair request and a change request. And then for each of those, you wanted to then assign subtypes that are shared between those 2 main types, but are going to be iterated through afterwards. So assign types, assign subtypes, elevate the urgency if the sentiment returns frustrated or irate. Which that's something we'll talk about here shortly. It's something we alluded to at the beginning, but it's pretty cool. And then here's just the list of all subtypes. Here's our priority levels in ConnectWise there and some of the reasoning behind it. So what we've done here is we've created a couple lists yet again for items that users may not say specifically that they have an accounting software problem. They may say that they have a QuickBooks problem. So we want to be able to match for QuickBooks or QB. In the same way, they may not say specifically that they have a CRM problem, but they may say they have a Dynamics problem or a HubSpot problem. So we kind of, judged out a couple words that may assign, maybe line up with those things as well. And we'll iterate through those in addition to allowing the AI to kind of read through, whatever it needs to get done. So we've got 3 categorizations, AI, neural net initiations here. The first one being our ticket types. So I've got repair request, an application broken, and change request. And because their change request includes application upgrades, I added application broken so that it would specifically map to a repair request as well. Or I could put that in as a repair request. So, when we're talking kind of about zhuzhing the rules to kind of work for you, it just depends on how you're going to separate things out. It's so many permutations of what you can actually do. So, so we've got these ticket types that we're looking through. We've got our feelings. So frustrated, angry, pleased, urgent, and we can identify sentiment based on those items. Then we've got our subtypes there. So all of the items that I listed above, I've added just, the word and then issues. We're going to iterate through those. And so what we do is we initiate the subtype being blank. That's going to fall back to your default. And then what we have is best match. So I alluded to this earlier. We are looking at the best match for these things. And if there's not a best match, if there's not something over 80% that matches, it's going to just abort this and it's going to submit the ticket under normal rules, and you can triage it manually. But so if there's a best match for repair request or application broken or change request, we'll set it as a repair request. And then if a step further, if it says change request, we'll submit it as change request. And then we're going to iterate through this list for each of those types. So if best match is accounting software issues, then we're going to assign the subtype as that. So if best match is email issues, we'll assign it as that. So and like we said, it's very possible that a user is not going to outright say, I have email issues. They may say I have Gmail issues or I have Exchange issues. And so, so with that, that's why we have that list, those lists that I was showing you at the top. So with that, if they don't have a subtype created based on these best matches, we're going to iterate through these lists as well and assign those things. And I actually am glad that we saw this because I've got an error there that I need to fix. So we're going through accounting items for each of those in the message, then assign that subtype if there's one in there. All right. So here's the same kind of priority adjustment section, but we're setting it up to be a little bit different. What we've got is we've got our initiation of our 4, the number 4, 4 slots, 4 integers here within our array, 5 integers, our n number. And then we've got, with that, we're just setting, if they say nothing, it's going to be priority 0 or, priority 4. And then this group, they didn't want to have any urgency changes. We're just, unless it's with the sentiment. So if frustrated and sentiment matches, elevate its frustrations, elevate its urgency. If angry, elevate its urgency. If something implies that it's urgent, elevate its urgency. And so again, here's our list, and then we're going to summate the I and the U and take that as our priority. So again, lots that you can do, and these are just some basic examples that we have here. I've got a couple other clients that we've been working with that have, a few other requests that we're kind of building in, based on. If you want to, you can also with the assist actions send a message to a Slack channel or a Teams channel. You can. We just did ticket priority types, subtypes, SLA. You could assign a ticket to a specific queue or technician. There's lots of things that you can do depending on those rules. Same thing set up as with our automations from the beginning. So you can still do a static word or phrase, but you don't have to. You can also just let the AI kind of read things for you. So that's kind of the quick rundown there. How do you test for this? How do you test for this other than just doing it in production? Well, I'm glad that you asked. So how do you test for these other than in production? Great question. Something you should absolutely be doing instead of just deploying to all of your endpoints. I mean, you could do this on the fly. I mean, cowboy coding, it's up to you. If you want to do that, it's fine by me. I'm not going to judge you. So what we want to do here, after we've put our code in, which any of the code that I've given you, you can just copy and paste it into the code editor section. It's going to work just fine. You can go in, copy and paste all your stuff, and then you can hit test rules. You can just run the test. It's going to tell you what's going on. Okay, would you like to make a purchase or receive a product estimate? So it matched computers broken to this person may want to buy a new computer. And you can see the numbers here actually. So, oh, it's a slow computer. So you can see where things rank according to that list there, the categories that you're checking against. So let's say we fired Becky on Friday. Please terminate access. So this, okay, that's not going to give us any assists because I don't have one. I'm just checking for new hires. Okay, so we hired Becky on Friday. Please add access. Great. So, it knows that if you hired someone, maybe there's a new service or feature that you want, but also if you're looking to add a new employee, please fill out this form. And you can see here that the best matches are new hire with a score of 99.21%. New device or service is at 90.1. So if you didn't want to have that show up, you could again set that that filter to 95% or 97%. So there's an example there. And so you can test those rules, you can futz with them, you can save them, whatever you need to do. Let's see, what's another one? Billing question. So then again, this is what you guys saw. You could say I have a billing question, and it's gonna, it's gonna find that for you. And that actually is not gonna show you have to say if before ticket submit to run the test. Sorry, I mumbled that out. If you have a rule that needs to fire off before the ticket is submitted, you need to check that toggle there for it to activate. So I have a billing question, or what was that? What's the one I've been using? Why is my invoice higher this month than last month? Please visit our billing portal. I would like to pay for our services last month. So again, it's going to give you, these are all real-time examples, and you can change the selections and stuff if you had a person that checked the scheduling box. I unchecked that, so it's after the ticket submission process. It's going to mention scheduling. So pretty straightforward. Testing here, no bells and whistles, nothing fancy. But it allows you to just kind of like go through each of these and figure out what what you need to be doing. If you need help with an email password reset, you can reset your share. So anyway, that's how you would go through and test. Once you're done, you can hit save rules. It's going to say, cool, you've submitted and updated. You can also do Control S or Command S, and it'll also submit it for you as well. So you do that with the Tier 2 assist. And you can also do that with the dispatcher rules. You're gonna be able to test those accordingly and make sure that they're working the way that you're imagining it. You just go in, you say, each of the selections or the message that you're expecting your users to put in. You run the test, and it'll pull that for you. So tons of stuff that you can do. This is only supposed to be a primer, and I've obviously talked for an hour. But what we'll do is I will drop the code in the chat here. For some of these things, I've got the general setup that we have in our demo here. So all of this Content is going to be in a file, as well as the ones under our Tier 2 assist actions. So just a good kind of general place to start for you. And you can play with them, and we're here and available to answer any questions that you have in the meantime. Thank you again for spending an hour of your time with us to learn about our Tier 2 AI. There's a ton of features that are available within it, and a bunch more things that we're building out. So if you have any questions, or if you come across anything that's a point of friction for you, please let us know. As usual, you can email me or our support team at support@tier2.tech. That's TIER, the number 2.tech. And we're happy to get you up and running with any questions that you have about how to use our software and to make your life easier through some of these automations, and automating your end users with perfect tickets every time.